another episode of the Social Z Franchise Happy Hour. I'm your host, Calvin Smith, as usual. I am in beautiful Destin, Florida. I'm in my conference room dungeon here, so you can't tell, but it is a beautiful sunny day outside and nothing but sunshine and palm trees. But we're very excited to have our next guest, Jamie, who is coming from maybe a thunderstormy Dallas-Fort Worth metro area. Jamie, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. So happy to be here with you.
Awesome. So, Jamie, we're going to get kicked off here. So, the first question that we have is, what are you doing right now for personal development as far as reading, listening, learning, classes? Like, where are you spending your time on your personal development?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I am an avid reader. I keep track of books that I've read and I set goals for myself every year. So, this goal for this year, rather, I've set it at 25, and I'm happy to report I'm 8 books in for
Awesome.
the year. So, we're doing good. We're on
That's great.
track. But I sort of dabble in a couple different things. I do some self-help, I do some just for fun, but it's really my way to relax, but also absorb information and do some self-help and things like that. So currently, I am reading the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Explicative.
Sure.
And it's
Sure.
great,
Yeah.
but that's more
Mhm.
for self-help. And then I also really, really enjoy listening to podcasts centered around the Enneagram. So if you're not familiar, it's a personality. Use it a lot for friends, family, but also in the workplace. So just delving really deeper into that. And Suzanne Stabile, who is a Dallas native, has a podcast that she explores all of the numbers. So those two are kind of
Okay.
dominating my headspace, if you will. But then
Sure.
always consuming fitness and health via social media as well. So a little sampling of
That's
everything.
interesting. Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, yeah, I really enjoyed, Mark Manson's book. I've listened to it a few times. I did the Audible book. So out of the eight you've done so far this year, what's been your favorite?
That's a great question. Probably, let's see. That book that I referenced that I'm doing now has been super profound. I'm finding myself taking photos of pages. It's an actual book. I usually read on my Kindle, but this one grabbed my
Hmm.
eye at Target and I actually bought it in paperback, which is very rare for me.
Sure.
But just sort of letting go of the small things, which sounds
Hmm.
in and of itself very small, but is very profound. And so it's the front runner currently. So we'll see. It's only April, so I'll have to circle back with you at the end of the year and revisit that question though.
Sure. Sure. Awesome. So next question, Jamie, is tell us about the franchise brand that you own and what makes it the best brand in its space.
Absolutely. Would love to. So we own Row House, which off the name you can probably gather it is a boutique fitness studio for rowing. That's our primary modality. So if you could envision a cycling class, it's that, but with indoor rowers. So we have 25 rowing machines in a 45-minute class. And the reason that I think personally this modality is the best is rowing is a full body, low impact workout. Emphasis on low impact. Now, it's still going to burn 400 to 500 calories per session, which is huge. We get a lot of
Awesome.
folks that are runners or endurance athletes that use us for training. And we also get a lot of folks that maybe came back from a hip replacement or bad knees and just want to get back into fitness, but it's a, very low barrier of entry sport. So, really appeals to a very wide range of demographic. And we've got folks that I think my oldest member is in her 80s, which is incredible. Still
Oh,
coming
wow.
in and doing that. So, truly, much like swimming, very, very low impact on the joints. So, you can do it for the bulk of your life, which is incredible. And so that's sort of
Sure.
what piqued our interest in the brand is just the access for a wide range of people.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah.
And we want to talk more about Row House and hear what you're doing there. But first we want to learn more about you and your story and how you got here. So tell us, did you grow up in the Dallas area? And, tell us, if you can, your first memory or thought of, hey, I'm going to be a business owner.
So I did grow up in the Dallas area, born and raised here in Texas, proud Texan, as most of us are, much to the dismay
Sure.
of the other states in the country. But I grew up in a pretty, what I would describe, lower income family, not a whole lot of access to quality, healthy food. Certainly didn't grow up seeing my
Hmm.
parents exercise. So grew up seeing them overweight and struggling with numerous health issues and just really didn't have that as something of a teacher, if you will. Wasn't modeled for me. And my career background is in education. So went to college, became an elementary school teacher, and also served a
Hmm.
very low income population, inner city Houston, and so truly
Oh,
saw
wow.
sort of like a grocery store desert. Most of my kiddos would get their food from convenience stores, and the nearest grocery store was a solid 10 miles away from them. And so kind
Hmm.
of just started thinking like, how do we make this more accessible? Because I knew seeing how I grew up and the struggles that my parents were going through with obesity, high blood pressure, etc. And the wheels started turning a little bit. Um, and it truly what the pandemic showed me and probably showed a lot of people was nothing else matters if we don't have our health. And so
Right.
I like to joke that some people had a pandemic baby and we had a pandemic business. So we signed
Sure.
our franchise
Sure.
agreement in February 2021. So very, very much in the sort of unknowns of the world, and certainly not a lot of people were recommending to throw an investment, a large amount of money at a business, but just started really thinking about that equitability with fitness and just how to serve an underserved population really. And so the majority of our members are of an older demographic, and I feel personally when I go to gyms or especially group fitness, you see a lot of fit people and you see a younger
Hmm.
population. And so that has been sort of just a blessing really to get to do that for an older demographic. So that kind of in a nutshell how we got here. I would say I
Sure.
didn't always know that I was going to be an entrepreneur, but
Hmm.
certainly just through my upbringing, and then through having kiddos and just seeing as a female the toll that took on my body, and needing that sort of group fitness atmosphere as a community was a couple of big reasons what attracted us to it.
Sure. Sure. So it sounds like, your why and your passion was definitely around something, with fitness and health and things like that. How did you ultimately decide that Row House was the right brand for you? And, what was
Mhm.
the due diligence process that you went through to decide, hey, we're going to put our, blood, sweat, and tears and money into this thing?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's sort of a unique story in the sense that I was passionate about the fitness world, if you will, just because of having a background, like I mentioned earlier, with family and just going through pregnancy and truly learning the vast ins and outs of everything that fitness can be for our world. But my husband is actually the rower. And so he fell in love with the sport of rowing, mainly for the benefits that I was saying, a full body workout, low impact. And during pandemic, he's in the oil and gas sector and started thinking, hey, if something happens in my job, want sort of a plan B. And so we kind
Hmm.
of married the two passions of health and fitness for me. He liked rowing, but he is more of the business mind, if you will. And so we met with a franchise recruiter and were presented a couple different options for different businesses. And really, none of them spoke to me like Row House did. And then, of
Sure.
course, went to a virtual discovery day because we're talking, December 2020. So things were still,
Sure.
people were really weirded out by meeting in person, and
Hmm.
sort of explored, just the ins and outs of the business and what it all entailed. And for us at the time, we had a 3-year-old and an 18-month-old. So it was very
Oh my goodness.
much of a it's stepping out in faith, if you will. But both of us just felt like we really truly believed in the brand and what the community that we could create and bringing this to where we live. We're 8 minutes from our studio, so this is our community, and just
Sure.
feeling, passionate about everything that we could do here in Flower Mound, Texas. So that's how we got here.
Awesome. Awesome. And you mentioned, that was in December of 2020. And
Mhm.
so what was the process like to actually get, doors open? For a lot of potential franchisees, they may not understand that, it does take time to find a space and,
Yes.
do all these things. So what was the process from the time you decided, hey, this is it, we're going in, to, hey, we've got our location open?
Yes. So it was end to end almost a year's time. So it's certainly not
Wow.
something that you blink your eyes and it's there. And
Sure.
our space that we're in was a dirt floor. So we had to, start from literally the ground up. So we
Hmm.
signed our franchise agreement in February 21 and opened our doors October of 2021. And so that
Sure.
process was long and stressful and also incredible and exciting. And we um,
Hmm.
went through what we deem in the brand as a pre-sale, which I'm sure is very familiar for a lot of franchisees, but truly trying to build out your member base before your doors open. And so how we did that was offer a lower barrier of entry for price in
Hmm.
exchange for not being able to provide facilities because we weren't open yet. So we hit the pavement and we hit the farmers markets and the July 4th parades and truly set up anywhere that people would allow us to, and just to
Sure.
get the word out, because as a brand, as a whole, the brand is a younger one. And so it's only been around 3, maybe 4 years now, but it is a part of a parent brand called Exponential Fitness. So Expo represents 10 modalities of fitness. So I won't name them all, but we've got like bar and cycling and running. And
Sure.
so, just kind of representing every modality of fitness that you can imagine in a group fitness class format. So, it's sort of the best way that I can compare it to anyone that hasn't built a business or franchise before is it's much like becoming a parent. People can tell you all
Hmm.
day long how it is, but until you experience it for the first time, you have no idea. The
Sure.
love and the stress both, combined together. So I don't know if you have kids of your own, Calvin, but I don't know if you would agree
I
with
do,
that or
yeah.
not. Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
certainly a labor of love.
yeah,
So it's been
absolutely.
fun, but
Absolutely.
a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, all my kids are now older and out of the house, Jamie, and what I tell people is, I certainly love them all the years they were with us, but some of the time I maybe didn't like it as much, and as
Right.
long as I've owned my businesses, I could probably, that's a good analogy because I could probably relate it to the same.
Yeah.
Like, I'm passionate about it, love the businesses, love the people, but sometimes I'm like, man, I don't like it today, right? So there's always the
Right,
roller
right.
coaster. So
Exactly.
Jimmy, your background, is interesting. So, your formal training and career and everything was in education, and you mentioned, particularly like early education. How do you think that's helped you, and what are the things that you've taken from your career and school and everything to how do you think that's helped you in what you're doing now?
Absolutely. So I think probably one of the most key benefits to I taught kindergarten, and that is a very it's a very physical job. You know,
Sure,
you're uh, you're you're getting up and down off the floor, and you're helping zip up jackets, and you're constantly being a therapist and a teacher and a mitigator and everything in between. But I think the key component that I was able to sort of bring from education into owning a business is patience. Um, it takes an insane amount of trust to go into building your business, but not expecting things to happen overnight and just taking every day one day at a time, one step in front of the other, and just truly
sure.
trusting the process and being patient with it all. There were days during pre-sale that I was referencing when we had not opened yet that we'd have construction delays or staffing issues, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want this to come together to hurry up and open the doors. But just trusting the process really, and just being patient with it, and also sort of along the same lines, but just being able to be a mentor to our staff and to our coaches because we are in fitness. Because oftentimes in fitness, people look to the instructor as 45 minutes of their day or an hour of their day where they get to just completely shut off and have tune out the world, if you will. And I always
Mhm.
praise our coaches for that they get to be that light in someone's day because it's so, and just such an incredible profession that you can have. However, also keeping in step that our coaches need to be poured into as well. So, sort of
Mhm.
just getting to be that person for them, and then just being patient with the process and kind of tying those two things back into education would be what stands out in my mind.
Sure, sure. That's a great reference, and you know, not being in the fitness industry, we do Peloton, for
Yeah.
example, and the Peloton classes, it seems like those people are they've got it all together, and they can motivate you for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour, but absolutely, they've got lives too, and it's good perspective that you have as an owner to say, hey, if they're going to be able to show up for our clients, we've got to show up for them.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's great. That's great. Jamie, what's we talk a lot about the successes and we celebrate wins all the time. You guys have been doing this, 2+ years now. What's been the biggest, we don't want to call it mistake, but biggest thing that you've maybe wish you hadn't done or would have done differently now that you've learned a little bit more?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that we were going through the sort of build out process with two very young kiddos at home. And
Hmm.
I, at the time, was also working a corporate job. My husband was working a corporate job. So we had sort of burning all ins 24/7. And as most owners do, but
Hmm.
really came to a crossroads December of last year where I looked at my husband and was like, I simply just can't do everything anymore. And it felt the weight of the world of giving 110% to the business and to work, and then coming home at the end of the day and having nothing left for my spouse, my kids, just feeling serious burnout. And so I think, as an update, as of March 1st, have left my corporate job of this year to focus on our business and our family, but just not truly prioritizing the business over everything else. And I think, when you have something that you're so proud of and that you worked so hard for, it's easy to do. It's easy to sort of just put all of your energy into that. But really stepping back and remembering, hey, the business hopefully will be there in 10 years, but if it's not, I don't want to just look back and have nothing, to show for it in regards to relationships and family and mental health, truly. And so just being able to scale back on that and be able to prioritize the things that matter, which is people and relationships, and just remembering that we're human beings. We're not machines, and living in the day and age that we do, it's easy to forget that, especially with all this chat GPT and AI and everything coming at us. But just truly, if I had to do it all over again, just realizing that allocating appropriate time for the business, for work, and family and friends, and just really being able to prioritize those things better, in hindsight, would have been more beneficial.
Awesome. Jamie, thanks for sharing that. And congratulations on leaving the corporate life and going full in. You've mentioned a few times that, you started this journey with your husband and he was in the oil and gas industry as well. You know, one of the things that a lot of us do is we dive into this journey with our spouses, our partners. What has it been like to work together and for you guys to kind of be not only partners in life but partners in
Yeah.
business, and how have you navigated those
Yeah, it's
challenges?
crazy, to be honest with you. It's I would say just personality wise, we are opposites, which opposites attract. I'm a firm believer in that. Ryan is introverted. He is behind the scenes. He loves an Excel spreadsheet, and I want nothing to do with any of those things. I want to be,
Sure.
I always say I am energized by people, and he is depleted by people. So I enjoy, the face-to-face interactions and going out and networking and doing events on behalf of the studio and getting to know our members and things like that. And so, truly, it's been really, really good to hone in on those strengths and then also the things that each of us doesn't enjoy, like I mentioned earlier, being able to sort of, swap places with that and come together and list out, hey, I'm going to cover this. Do you mind doing this? And I think the most beneficial thing in a partnership really is when we do encounter situations where, we need to, so sort of like with staffing, or if we're coming to difficult decisions on behalf of the business, just being able to look at it from two different perspectives, because we do sort of think about things different ways, and having perspectives
Sure.
on it, I think, has been really, really beneficial for us. Of course, we don't always agree on things, but that is life, and I think there's good things about that though too. It it's really enabled me to see things from new perspectives and sort of um, give insight into, there's not always one way to do things. And then also too, it's given us sort of an outlet to be creative, which I think has been something that I didn't foresee happening. I don't typically view myself as a creative, and I don't think he would say the same thing about himself. But because of owning the business, it's enabled us to sort of, gain perspective into that, that I don't think we would have necessarily done before. So I'm thankful for that. It's been a journey,
Sure.
but it's been good. It's been good.
It's awesome. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Jamie, besides finishing 17 more books, what is the go for 2023?
Yeah.
You're all in, this is your focus besides obviously the full-time job of being, a spouse and
Yeah.
mother. What's the goal of the business and what are you hoping to accomplish this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think growth is always first and foremost. We have an amazing community that we have, and I say we because it has certainly not just been me or been Ryan. We have an incredible staff that's built, and that was really the dream and the goal, was to build a solid community, which I feel like we truly have built. But just to grow that. So get more people in the doors. I think the passion that I share along with our crew, because we sort of stay true to rowing terminology, is to just get rowing out there. You mentioned Peloton, Calvin, which I love. I'm a big Peloton fanatic, but I think a lot of folks don't know the benefits of rowing like they do know cycling, which Peloton released a rower. I'm not sure if you're familiar or not. So I'm actually jazzed about that
Yeah,
because it gets the word out and gets more folks, sort of turned on to the sport of rowing.
sure.
So just to not only to grow our business just for us, but also the sport of rowing, because I do think it is an incredible modality of fitness that a lot of people just simply don't know about. So I know that's both a measurable and non-measurable thing. So kind of give you one of each there. Awesome. Thanks for having me today. I'm Jamie Kimberling with Row House Flower Mound. Row House is a 45-minute group fitness workout that utilizes 86% of your muscles. But we are a low impact modality, so perfect for truly anyone of any age that's looking to either get in shape or stay in shape, and both endurance athletes and anyone looking for strength training. So thank y'all so much for having me today.